And the most important is not to lose the dream. Actually, that's what I think. It's like you just sort of navigate in a way that you still are having this wonderful childish will to be a princess or prince. Making bigger things is also means that you give more work to people. So and especially on a certain level, you give work that also gives a feeling of dignity. If there is a prestige, and it's actually more about that. That's what is actually now for me super motivating. It's just to give this feeling of dignity as a musician. I find fascinating how you can improve level of some ensembles, not only on the musical level, level, but also in how to make them being visible for the media and the audience, and being relatively more famous. You know, it takes time to be really famous.
Welcome to the Theatre Art Life podcast. Today we're talking with Martyna Pastuszka.
12 years ago, Martyna founded and has since artistically led the Orkiestra, specialising in a repertoire from Baroque to late Romanticism. In addition to purely instrumental music, Martyna has a particular interest in Baroque and classical opera. As a concertmaster and conductor violinist, she collaborates with top European ensembles operating within the historically informed performance practice movement. She leads a class on historical violins at the Academy of Music in Katowice, Poland, and is invited as a lecturer for summer courses in early music. Privately, she is the mother of Feliks and Gustaw, living in the countryside with her husband, Adam. Martyna, welcome to the show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Wonderful. So before we get a little bit of insight into your career, tell us about your path into music originally.
Well, I come from a musical family. That was, I guess, things are different. They were different in the 80s. And when I started the school, being actually raised in pretty industrial area, one of those, you know, full of coal mines, whatever factories. Choosing a musical school or ballet school, which were basically belonging to the state, financially speaking, was one of the most easiest way. The easiest way to actually be sure about the quality of education. So my parents put me into this music school together with my sister. We both play violin, and my sister became a singer, and I became a violinist. I was not really convinced that should be my way, but it's a wonderful thing to start. You know, you got so many friends playing instruments. You do have actually hobby that is a little bit tiring because they actually force you to do it, and they. It's a little bit also this kind of post-Soviet school, you know, like Chinese gymnastic, French ballet, Russian ballet, playing music. It's one of the things that you need to, at a certain moment, make kids to do it, force them somehow. But we come into the age of 20, 25, and we're actually pretty happy with the choice we've made. And that's how it all started. My father is a musician. My sister started to be a singer, and I played violin. Out of both of us, I'm the one who actually enjoys people much more. I mean, like having them around, being surrounded, listening to the stories, and actually making some stories and some ideas come true. And then yes, so that is the way I actually anchored in music, basically.
Was there was it just violin, or did you have other instruments to choose from, or that was the one that you had to learn?
Well, you know, that's what I mean. We do actually, it's not like in other countries where people start to have hobbies and they jump from trombone to saxophone, eventually ending up on oboe or the other way around, rather. We do actually, from the age of 7, we actually treat very seriously this job, almost like a métier. You're almost like it's already you are 8 and they already tell you what you do wrong so seriously that you really get either a feeling of being successful or outcast. So of course everyone has to play piano, and that is not obligatory on a very good level, but everyone has to play piano. But we definitely in my area of the let's say post-Soviet influences, we do treat it, or I think even though the system changed, and now when I'm a teacher, academic teacher, I still think that we have that heavy burden on our shoulders of being already having a prospect of a life of a musician while you are 7. And I guess it's the same in Asia, because they also treat it very seriously. We've got a lot of Asian students, and I must say we sort of share the same problems, the same traumas. Of course, they are differently shaped by the culture, since we are more individualistic, and the Asians are a little bit more within the community. But I see some traces of the same traumas of being too early over responsible for our lives. But otherwise, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be a musician.
Yeah.
If that really works, talking about career and luck and work. But if that doesn't, then you have to probably get through some therapy, I guess. I don't know. I mean, that's how I see it.
Oh, I love that you brought that up. Sorry, I'm dominating the conversation, Adam. But the interesting thing my son has a friend who practices piano 2.5 hours a day, and he's a Asian friend, and he's brilliant. But it is like it's such a commitment at this age of his life, right? To be playing so much, and he's very, very talented. So I can totally identify with it. It's like, is it a blessing or is it not? Because it does require a lot of commitment and a lot of work and a lot of mandate from the parents that you're going to be successful in this, right? And that's 2.5 hours of playing every day, which is a lot for a 13-year-old child, right? So very interesting. Sorry, Anna, do you want to ask a question?
No, well, yes, but I was just it's like I started playing piano also when I was like 3. And one thing, I've always loved music, but one thing I always knew is that I was not gonna really be a musician because I don't know if always, because when I was very early I really liked it, but I was not gonna be able to study that many hours a day for my entire life. And yeah, where do you draw the line, and how do you accept that commitment when you're so young?
I guess it's also how many choices you've got and how many opportunities your parents give you. I guess that's why we are getting all these wonderful players from countries that have actually a limited, or used to have a limited, or still have limited access to whatever, electronics, for example, or whatever kind of, I don't know, martial arts, whatever kind of hobby you can offer your child after school. And apparently a lot of very good players, the ones who really devote themselves hours and hours every day, are coming from troubled families, as if that would be as an escape from the conflicts there are actually, next door, next room. It seems I'm teaching now 14 years, and I take great interest into actually, and I get them on the last moment, when they actually don't have parents anymore because they're 19 and they are still not adults in this sense that you earn money and then you are totally independent. So I meet these wonderful young people in moment that they still full of ideas and ideals, and they have this dreams about becoming someone, and then during 5 years of studying this whole plan, and especially when you get to the end of the master course, somehow they see that life it's not exactly as in the cartoons and fairy tales, no? And then they have to somehow rebuild the whole structure. They have to create new aims, new dreams. And the most important is not to lose the dream. Actually, that's what I think. It's like you just sort of navigate in a way that you still are having this wonderful childish will to be a princess or prince, but you just have to navigate and get it through the narrow space of conscientiousness. No, I mean, you just need to get a slightly more realistic. But I see a lot of people that were actually in childhood escaping from what sort of a kind of traumas, or feeling not really appreciated within their peers, or having whatever spectrum, being on spectrum of autism, ADHD, or all of those difficult for others to bear social awkwardness, and then they find a way to actually speak through music and express their feelings and thoughts through music. So it's not only how much you've got access to the newest technology or hobbies or whatever interests you can have, whatever things that might find fascinating, but it's also about our families. And for people from Eastern Europe, I guess, all these countries, in our case, like Bulgaria, Romania, then I guess Asia is one of those countries as well. It's when you don't really have so much, when the economy of the country is not so great, you just have less to wander around. You just get focused on something that actually can make your living better. And playing instrument gives that feeling that if you work hard, you will achieve something. The only problem which I see is that it's underpaid, vastly underpaid job. And if only lawyers or doctors would study 17 years, because in total it actually takes 17 years from starting 7 in a primary music school, and then you end up 24 with studying. And it's 17 years. If there was any other profession that takes 17 years to study, well, then it's good when it works. I mean, I say if you have a career, it's fantastic. If you don't, it's an investment in being culturally mature and being able to play some carols on a bank, Christmas or whatever. I don't know, within your colleagues and on the meeting of the lawyers or whatever. I mean, I'm like playing a violin and being a doctor or surgeon, whatever. I mean, then you see, I mean, it's a lot of hours that you invested. And if it doesn't work, if you are not social, if you don't have that thing, that little poetic element in your soul, then it becomes a little frustrating. And then you need to change the job. But otherwise, it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful profession.
And what was your first work or job in the industry after studying and growing up a little bit? What was your first paid musical job?
So I was not after studying. I was very lucky. I was 20 when I started to get some interest in Baroque violin. The difference between violin and Baroque violin is mostly on the intellectual side. So modern violin, it's what people usually see in modern orchestras, these big symphonic orchestras that's full of violinists and instrumentalists. You basically need 30 of violins to play in a symphonic orchestra. I don't know, just very shortly, it's like 15 of us playing the same part. So you practice and then you make with all the 15s of your colleagues to make it sound as one. Something like more like synchronic swimming, for example. You are really not there to be the different one. While the whole education is about being unique. So it's a little sacrifice. Then Baroque violin and Baroque, basically historical and form performance practice. It's about how the music was performed and what were the values important back then when the music was composed. We talk about aesthetics, we talk about means of techniques, the way they built instruments. So when we go really back to Baroque, it means that whatever we use, it's way not so technologically advanced as it is now with the modern instruments. It causes a lot of difficulties to actually produce the notes, the sound, to play. And then on top of that, which is the most important and which is fascinating, it's that you basically are ethically obliged to know what you play, how you play it, what people thought, what was the idea beneath actually writing it, what was the tradition, what was where the music was composed, for whom, and to come the closest to the way people actually could have played that. Well, in theater, it's like, for example, what is now gaining a little bit of, it's becoming super fashionable. The original pronunciation of Shakespeare, for example, or all these 16th century theaters, just like really getting there to pronounce Shakespeare and the Restoration literature, dramas, in a way they were actually pronounced with the right props, the right costumes, even tailored with the costumes which were the way it was even with the machines that were probably available at that time. So basically, that's a huge movement within the cultural life. And I found that absolutely fascinating in the age of 20. So I started to play. And the moment I played my first concert, it was a really little gig somewhere there, in a little village. And I was lucky. Of course, everything goes about luck in life. I mean, of course, you need to work hard, but in the end, you just meet the right person, no? And that person, after this little, I don't know, it's like 1 hour concert, playing almost sight reading because it was so easy and it was so much fun and so much pleasure. Recommended me to the orchestra that I later on stayed for 15 years. And I was at that time 21. So from the moment of 21, I remember I got on Christmas Day, I went for one project. And then on Christmas Day, I got a list of projects that I'm invited for the whole next year. It was one of the most beautiful Christmas presents I've received in my life. And from that moment on, I work it the same way. I just get invited to projects with different people, getting to know them. So I was 21 when it all started, still having 3-4 years to study on modern violin, making it possible to coexist. It's slightly different technique. You've got two different instruments. You also start thinking differently. So it didn't match exactly my teacher. And then you, of course, have to count on someone's understanding and openness. And that's what happens. Again, very lucky with people around, just helping, not being a barricade, not creating troubles. And then that allowed me to be 23 and get married, because I thought, like, well, let's do it once you are financially sort of stabilized. It's like all these things there now. And I think from the perspective, we joined the European Union in 2009. But when I think about 20 years ago, the way of thinking is really like from a countries of developing rather character than really being placed within the plateau of countries that are already being well established economically. So 23, I got married. 25, I got Feliks, my first son. 28, I had Gustav. So I'm really happy. And now the first vacation together with my husband without kids. So plan as far as it goes now, it goes exactly according to my dreams. So.
And somewhere in the middle, you started your own orchestra?
Right.
And that just happened with luck as well? And a lot of hard
a lot of work, a lot of hard work, because it's never just, I mean, if you build something, of course, you need to work. I mean, no one is going to do the work. But again, of course, it's about being surrounded by wonderful people. This orchestra I started to play when I was 21. It's called Arte dei Suonatori in Poland. And it still is, led by a couple, Ewa and Arek Golińscy. what was wonderful about that concept, and I found that absolutely thrilling, is that every month they invited someone for a series of concerts. They invited someone from absolutely the top quality stage of early music. And that person was asked, and many times was encouraged. Sorry, looking for the word. Encouraged to give their perspective in such a manner that we would be able to actually accommodate, domesticate most of the ideas within that very week. But I'm saying encourage because people usually come, they give a bit, like 10% or 15%, and then sort of they respect ensembles' characteristics, identity. And people don't want to impose things. And I mean, there are some that have no problem imposing things. They even don't notice that. But there are the ones, especially when you come to, I don't know, some Dutch or British people or French, the ones who just try to be gentle, and they don't think, or they sort of don't think that they should colonize the whole world again. So, they become a little bit gentle with imposing things. And so we actually all the time encourage them to say more, to actually point out more elements to be changed. And there was 3 days or 4 days of rehearsals, 5 concerts altogether, 9 days every month. After 9 years or 10 years of playing in this orchestra, every month someone different, every month someone with completely different idea. And I found that, it was a huge step in education, but also in being flexible after this. You get so many ideas from month to month. You change how people think. And I remember I still have some friends that kept correspondence with me, just like writing emails, just asking questions or advising. And that's wonderful. I mean, the emotional ties you make during these 9 days. So that was the first thing. I mean, like after 10 years of playing every month, 10 projects per year with some distinct, very well-established musicians, you get a palette of possibilities. And there is one moment you need to choose who you want to be, because there is this palette, and then you need to have your own identity. But all these people started to inviting others, so that's how it works. Of course, again, people, just whoever you meet, you need to be lucky, because they take you somewhere, and I'm quite lucky to work a lot in France, which is for our early music, I think, the most refined and the most successful early music market, let's say. It's really the most successful place. A lot of ensembles, a lot of wonderful productions. I think in music, in arts, basically Paris still keeps its place as it used to be in 19th century. It's not the place for everything, but in art, in visual arts, in dancing, in music, it still keeps the place of being the leading role in Europe. And from there, I just learned also the way, they actually creating stars. You know what they do? They choose one person, and they are actually creating a star with all means, television, interviews, and someone can be 22, and they basically find a person that is musically, intellectually, poetically appealing, but also physically. That's one of those things. Doesn't have to be beautiful. It has to be specific. It has to have something, to, like, for the eye of the camera, for the eye of the audience. And they basically make that person to be a star. For 10 years, I had opportunity to actually observe how they make it. It's not exactly possible to bring it to another parts of the world, because not everyone is so much concerned about the art, as French are, but it is possible in certain way to start an orchestra and avoid many mistakes of beginners once you have observed that in another culture. So in 2012, being surrounded by very good players and nice colleagues of mine, we decided to actually form an orchestra. And since then it's working. It's working. It's still being very much inspired by what my colleagues in other countries are doing, because it seems like they are doing it earlier enough to notice where are the difficulties and how to avoid the troubles and what direction to go. The one that already works, so you don't waste time for fixing your own, mending your own big mistakes.
Is that when you stepped into being a conductor? Like, what was that transition from, playing to conducting?
But there's always a dream to do something bigger, isn't it? And it's like you cannot help it. You cannot help it. And also making bigger things is also means that you give more work to people. So and especially on a certain level, you give work that also gives a feeling of dignity. If there is a prestige, and it's actually more about that. That's what is actually now for me super motivating. It's just to give this feeling of dignity as a musician, because in some of the countries we forgot about that. Like someone plays a recorder and they hear all the time and professionally, and they practice hours and hours and they play amazing things, but they always hear that what they do for living. I play a recorder. Yes, but what do you do for living? My daughter also plays a recorder. There is sometimes people don't really treat musicians. They don't even consider musicians to have a that is actually the main occupation. That's how you should earn your money, no? You would be surprised how many times we hear it. It's like, I also always wanted to play violin, and my daughter plays the piano, and you see that there is no understanding of how much of intellectual processing, thought processing must go if you want to do it professionally. And then in concept, and music touches, especially in opera, in theater, in musical theater, it touches that what the Greeks were calling catharsis. So you basically create a performance that starts way before you start the first note and ends really sometimes even 2 years after, where people actually get to certain conclusions being based on the quality of the performance, being, just being driven by some special sounds, some special meanings of the words, the way people sang something, the way that the director, the stage director, has actually made it, and picture it. So it is an amazing part of our life, sometimes demeaned by someone who has a daughter who plays also a recorder. So I think that what is, it's a lovely, it's absolutely charming discussions, and then lovely way of connecting with people to talk about music. But it can be super professional on a super high level, intellectually and aesthetically. And one of those, it's opera. One of those moments where you actually can really fully understand and have an impact on someone else's and your own life. It's to change it. It's opera. One would say the moment you go to the theater to see a drama, and afterwards, after you've seen it, you've never the same person anymore. And that's what I think it's the beauty of theater. You're never the same, because you've got a bunch of new ideas, reflections, or really experiences, changing factors that are changing your life. And that was the moment I thought that opera would be great to make. And for the opera, you need to conduct. It's a lot of people. It's stage and the pit to organize. It's just a matter of organizing people. conducting is actually about being responsible for all the thing and thinking and spending time to try to comprehend it the most clearly and most consistent way. So people feel rather led than being just organized. Just organized, it's just like logistics. You get trams and trains and buses in the town organized. But opera and conducting is about leading and comprehending something very complex, and it's fascinating. So that was the moment. I think we made the first opera around 2017, and we met a wonderful singer, Max Emanuel Cencic, who it happened that he also has his own agency. And now that's a wonderful thing about getting older, and that people actually get some important positions, and they get these positions because they are competent. And with Max, we are doing next year 2 productions. And again, it's about, giving this feeling of doing something bigger and creating something new. So that was the element of changing into conducting.
And now a note from our sponsor. The Theatre Art Life podcast is proud to be sponsored by Clearcom. Clearcom is the leader in voice communications for theatre and the performing arts. Call your cues with the simplicity and elegance of Clearcom Intercom solutions. You can find them at clearcom.com. Go check them out.
That's kind of fascinating, the way you just explain your transition and how everything unfolded. And it's also, I feel like, a lot of passion, which I guess you need after so many years to keep doing it and not change your job and keep being in love with music. It also, I feel like musicians, I want to say, I don't know if more so than others, I don't know, circus artists also do this, but it really becomes part of yourself. Like your identity is completely tied to your profession. And to see that evolve as you evolve in life as well is very interesting. And how you approach music from different perspectives, I guess.
Are the circus artists doing it since they are very small? Is it like?
I think that's why, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be a successful circus artist, you start when you're, 3, 4, 5,
Wow.
and they often grow up as families and that sort of thing. And so it is inextricably tied to their identity. And I think it's the same with professional musicians. You have to start early to have all of that in your DNA, right? And like you mentioned before, you got to master it by thousands and thousands of hours of practice. And it's the same for circus artists. And that's fascinating because then if you go through your youth and then your teen years, and that's a big part of it, then how are you anything else, right? Like you can't extract yourself from that when it's been your life. It's really interesting. I think that's why when some people, fortunately for a lot of musicians, you can do that for a very, very long time. But the arc of a performer finishes at a period of time. And then that transition can be very difficult if they haven't prepared themselves psychologically for it, right? Like at some point you have to retire from circus arts, whereas with musicians you can tend to play well into however late you can, right? Almost a retirement age, you could hypothetically keep playing. But that's not the same for circus artists. So it was a very interesting parallel that you just made, Anna, but yeah.
Well, with music, I guess it's a little bit more like with literature, with drama. We do touch a beauty that is impossible to explain. We do. It's the same with it's also aesthetically speaking, that's beauty. And also there is a concept which is on a genius level with some of the composers. And it's the same for writers. So it always makes you a little modest. But also there is a space for people who are very narcissistic, because if they can comprehend that genius level, gives a feeling of being equally genius. But that's true. There are people that are equal genius. I mean, there is this amazing conductor, Klaus Mekele. He's now, I think he's 28. He was 26 when he became a chief conductor of Paris Philharmonie, which is, one of the best playing orchestras in the world. And they made 26-year-old boy, basically, their chief director, artistic director. And he's definitely one of these living geniuses. I mean, just you meet him and you see how he works, and then how many things he can actually comprehend, and so many things are easy for him that are not so easy and not easy to comprehend for 60 years olds. And that is wonderful. Which I don't know much about circus, or because circus somehow is very close to sport in certain way. Unless there are this amazing dancing, for example, it's also this one of this, because of the choreography, that can be on the genius side. Oh, well, I mean, it's all, after all, about people. I mean, you touch something which is beauty and intellectually demanding. But again, I would say the Darwin natural selection is here. I mean, of course, it can be appealing intellectually as far as you can comprehend that. So it's all about this, about natural selection. I mean, people are just they go in groups, no? The ones who actually comprehend things, and the ones who are just happy playing melodies and carols, no? And are so that's what it is. I mean, you make somehow it's. What fascinates me, I thought about that a few days ago, is you cannot really explain how people match together in groups, the more successful groups, because you can't really put a finger on it. It's just almost like people just get together because they understand the depth of the task. In the same way, or at least on the same level, if not in the same way. All this natural selection, it goes so without any word spoken. You just get a call, and then you cannot express and actually explain why. It's just you just know that you want to play with that person, and although the colleague plays equally well, you for some reason, somehow you just call that one, not the other one. You're really not able to. I mean, we can all put something in words, but in the end, there is this human relationship magic that you connect more. There's someone that you know that you are safer, and your communication on the stage is going to be more fulfilling as well for us artists and for the audience, because that's another part of the whole show. No, it's the audience. The message is going to be just better formed and more distinctive way on a more satisfying level, and will not only get because you dress nicely. That's one thing. So there is already part of the public that goes like, "Whoa, she looks so great," or "He looks so handsome," whatever. But there is this part that reacts on music because there are nice melodies, no, and a lot of rhythm. Let's dance a little bit, like you've got the Bolivia Orchestra or something. They've got a lot of rhythm. It's fantastic. And then you've got people who just play lovely melodies. In Europe, that's the Italian way. They play melodies. They always phrase. It's always like like del canto from the beginning till the end, and it's wonderful. It's wonderful. And then you act on it. But there are some people and some ensembles, some groups that deliver these intellectual qualities of what I said before, catharsis. No, that you're not the same person. And I remember, although he's not so, I mean, media hasn't been very graceful to him, but John Elliott Gardiner, it's amazing conductor from UK. I think something of a minor there was an incident that who couldn't stand one singer, who was, as I know it from exactly that production, he was irritating everyone around and being very capricious. But John Elliott Gardiner couldn't stand it. In one of the last concerts, he just slapped his face. And that's been like a huge violent episode. And I do agree that we shouldn't do it, definitely. But apparently from the inner circle of John Elliott Gardiner, this production was very intense and tense because of exactly this singer. But media are not talking about this absolutely unacceptable behavior for 3 weeks that the singer offered all the people around. They are only about John Elliott Gardiner behaving a little. The lack of gentlemanship a little bit there, but he is one of those who offers feeling of actually attending something not only superb in quality but something sacred. Whatever music it is, doesn't matter if it's religious or not. It's just sacred. It's on a level of a big mystery that people are attending. And what happens is that people, when he goes on the stage, people are clapping and applauding for the last concert they've attended with him. So last time I was in Leipzig on a festival, and people were clapping 10 minutes before he even started the concert. And I find that incredible and very moving.
Wow.
Very moving. I mean, people just stand up because he came on the stage and clapping 10 minutes for all of the good he's done to music. And I think that's beautiful. That's amazing part of being around these people. Even seeing that, it's like how many jobs you've got, how many professions you actually get to get 10 minutes applause for the last, I don't know, bridge that you built, or like
not many.
Not many, no. I can't imagine. I mean, it's like it's like.
No, that's total another level for sure. So what would you say is your most favorite thing about your job or the industry?
So I find fascinating in the industry. I find fascinating how you can improve level of some ensembles, not only on the musical level, on the musical level, but also in how to make them being visible for the media and the audience, and being relatively more famous. It takes time to be really famous, and some people can do it faster or slower. But how to that's almost like a chess playing. You're just sitting there looking at all the options that are around on the table and asking questions. Why are they not successful enough? Or why, if there are such a good players, they are not used in a way that it's actually that are profiting from that particular combination of characters. And it's the same for ensembles. I found that sometimes I have a look on, for example, American early music scene, and it's fascinating because it's such a huge country. It's, I don't know, 350 million people in America, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole industry and the film industry, it's in great condition. No, I mean, it's like everyone's watching Oscars. But no one speaks about music in America. It's like, how is that possible? I mean, early music, no one, and we've got this movement last 40 or 50 years. And we've got this, I mean, it's absolutely pulsating place, on the musical map of ensembles. We've got these little eruptions here and there. It's like a geysers, it's like, it's just there, France, England, but it's every little geyser, every ensemble. And then it's this plateau of America. And there are like, I don't know, 5, 6 ensembles. And basically we don't know about them. I mean, there's like 2 of them from the whole continent, maybe 3 that we hear about. And that's including Canada.
Wow.
So that's fascinating, It's like, I'm thinking like, I mean, what is the I would love to check, that I would love to just go there and just being, like forced to actually take serious interest in why is it, like what doesn't work and how it can be fixed from the also economic point of view, organization point of view. Like, I mean, that this every state has a television. I mean, like there are radios. I mean, like, you know, this amazing country, you think, like it's their having access to everything, the newest technology and everything. And still this early music, which is one of the, for me, one of the most vital forms of music gatherings, it's not working there. And I would love to. I mean, like I just thought, you know, this. It's so fascinating just to get to know why it doesn't work and actually make one example of how it can work if you think it thoroughly with all the consequences, and just finding where is the barricade, where is the blockage, no, of the process. So that's what I find fascinating in this industry. And in music in generally, building an ensemble, it's almost like anticipating. It's like being therapist who anticipates the troubles of communication between people. Because people are going to feel uneasy to step on someone else's weaknesses, and usually ensembles have a tendencies of getting rather less intellectually active than more intellectually active, unless you are motivating people to work or inspire them. So musically speaking, it works exactly the same way. I mean, people are, what I've noticed, musicians are, and we are all, I think, very happy if we find ourselves doing our job extremely well. And not everyone can really keep the level. But though, if someone actually made us to be very good in what we do, being a part of something of exquisite quality, we do grow this feeling of gratitude in our hearts for that person that brought us on that level. So this leadership is about avoiding conflicts which are unnecessary, because not all of the conflicts are unnecessary, but the ones which are unnecessary and actually stopping the flow. And the second thing is to make it this way that people are actually grateful to each other too. I mean, they have this gratitude feeling towards each other for what the person next to me is doing as well as I'm doing. You know, it's like when I hear that someone can play fantastic, it's not only that person plays fantastic. The person plays fantastic because it's surrounded by another person who is supporting and giving space for that, and giving this calm feeling full of acceptance, this field, somehow this space of love that you've got around you is accepting that some things might go wrong, but basically you are good enough, being well before selected by what I already said, the Darwin idea of natural selection. But if you select people really well, so they find it, their needs are corresponding with someone else's needs, then you give a feeling of fulfillment. And somewhere there, creating such a group of people that feel fulfilled intellectually and artistically, it's a wonderful, I still find it a wonderful mission. That's what I find. We are making people, there is an amazing, the facial expressions of people that are happy artistically. You cannot
Nothing
describe
better.
that. You cannot buy it in a shop. You know, they don't sell it. You cannot buy it.
So true.
I absolutely love your passion. It's just, it's beautiful.
Thank you. say, but it comes from people around that, because it's just this feeling, because you see these people there and you also feel like that's exactly what I want. Maybe sometimes it's not perfect, but in all this materialistic world, that it matters how many cars you've got and how big house you have, and then you deliver something. I mean, one of those things is like health or love, or friendship. You don't buy it, no? But this thing about fulfilling someone's needs, even the ones that people don't know that they have, that is the thing about the leader, You deliver, you fulfill needs that they are not aware of. And then they come even 5 years later and they are just grateful because they see they grow. And I have that experience, of course, with musicians that I've been lucky to play with. So still I'll go somewhere. So like, oh yeah, now I understand what he meant this 20 years ago. And then you call someone saying, yeah, thank you for that, because now I understood that. I have a mentor, Andreas Steyer, is a pianist. He's now 70 something. And there are many times I didn't call him so many times, but I should have. Just to thank him for these few words that were absolutely not. I didn't comprehend at that time, but now yes. And I think that's the role of the leader, that you settle conditions for reflections. Yes, for reflections bigger than people are at this very moment. So that's what fascinates. And music absolutely allows that, because it's it's so voluminous. It gives so many options, and it's so on a genius level, intellectually and aesthetically, that you can operate on a very modest level, but you can also have, in the same group, you can have people that are just geniuses.
And if you could change one thing about the industry or your job, what would that be?
Well, it's connected with finances, of course, with economic situation of the art and education. People who the problem is in developing country is that people who usually get close to money, they are more trade connected and trade orientated, and people who do trade, it takes generations to understand that you need art once you have money. So the old countries with old aristocracy, or people who already have a lot of money for a long time, they come to conclusion that they need art. But in all of those developing countries, you've got musicians, you've got artists of different sorts, and you've got people who have money, but these people who have money usually don't feel any need for art, because it's too early in the history of that country. And that is, unless it's something fashionable, like buying a Picasso, sure. Then people spend money on it. But already sculptures, no one knows sculptures unless it's Rodin or something. But you cannot buy a Rodin because it's in a museum. So yeah,
Yeah.
do you know what I mean? I mean, like,
Yeah.
you can buy painting, and then you can buy a nice instrument, but if you don't play on it, and then I would love that to be changed. But it has to go together with education and actually being a witness of something. It's like, you remember that you had that feeling, and nothing else is going to give it to you except going to the theater. No, but you have to go to the theater when you're 5 and 7 and 10. There must be parents who take you. But usually people who, in these developing countries, people who come to money suddenly, nouveau riche kind of, no? They come there because of the trade, because of finding this niche in business, making it using money, producing the facial masks during COVID. Suddenly you get super wealthy. But from producing facial masks, you don't really probably go to the concerts. No, you're busy with probably you would go to the shop with I don't know, with pencils and books or whatever, not to the concert. So that is the thing, because I think at the same time in the same country, the ones who would probably make the country to exist and would construct the country much quicker and actually make it attractive for tourism are actually artists, because nothing else it's bringing country to be famous the way art is doing it, no matter if it's architecture or if it's music, dance, theater. Already theater, it's a little bit risky because it's with words and it's language linked. So it's not really a touristic thing to do, unless it's Anglo speaking zone. Mm-hmm. But I think for countries that are really developing or even not starting to be developing, art would make a difference, and they would all profit in tourism from having artists active. But then artists are really on the last position of payment. I mean, it's like we consider them useless. While all these thousands and million tourists shows that there are not, that people still going to Italy, no? And there are movies about Italy, going to Italy. It seems like in America, going to Paris, it's like the biggest dream on earth, no? I mean, it's like you finally feel the citizen of the world, of the planet if you went to Paris, no? There is nothing else except for art in Paris. There is nothing else. It's just art, pure art. Or the museums. You just don't do anything else. You just go to museums. But it seems like, it's an incredible amount of people, money flowing together with tourism. And developing countries' artists are actually on the worst position. Teachers and artists, I think, are the worst paid professions in countries that are not there yet. So I think I would change that. Poland is not. It's already not on such a bad position, but we still feel the lack of appreciation for our job. I think the selection also needs to be there. I don't know how to select art, because it's such a vague thing. What is, if that drawing is actually an art or is just a childish.
Yeah, what is good? It's so subjective, right? So that's the difficult thing when people are engaging in it. What is good and what's great for what represents the culture and the country, right?
Exactly.
That's great. Well, Martyna, thank you so much for spending an hour with us on the Theatre Art Life podcast. We've been so joyful to hear about your career and your passion and your work. And we might have to get you back again at some point to talk about leadership and stuff. You're a fascinating person to talk to. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Theatre Art Life is a global media site for entertainment. Memberships start at only $38 per year. You can have unlimited access to our daily published articles, including entertainment news and the writings of active industry professionals, ensuring that you are always up to date on the global happenings in the world of entertainment. Become a part of the international entertainment community and join us now at www.theatreartlife.com.